Christmas, that season of nostalgia and comfort and joy, and we have this text about the signs of the things to come, the signs of the end of the world. We're going to talk about signs a little bit. I think at some points in our lives, probably most of us really look for signs. You know, I was thinking there's a lot of ways to find signs these days. There's the Farmer's Almanac. I don't know if you've read it yet, but according to the Farmer's Almanac, we are in for a brutal winter. The other way that some of us look at signs is we read our horoscopes, right? So I was looking at mine yesterday. I'm Cancer, that's my sign. And according to my horoscope yesterday, that I should be cautious with money because I'm either spending too much or saving too much. But I think all of us are really alert for signs in many interactions that we have. We get emails or texts from people we know well, friends, and yet it's hard to tell the tone in an email or a text, so we're looking for signs. What do they really mean from that email or text? You know, sometimes we put emojis after it to try to help share what we're really meaning by a text. But also in our personal interactions, in our physical interactions. You know, when your boss comes walking towards you, aren't you looking for signs about what that boss is going to say? You watch the gait, you watch the expression on his or her face, and you wonder, what's going to happen? You're looking for signs. I know many of us have had doctor's appointments and waiting for test results. And as we're sitting in the doctor's office, aren't we looking for a sign as soon as the doctor comes in? Wondering if we can tell from the look on his or her face or from the way they are writing in the chart what that might mean for us. All of us are looking for signs. You know, I kind of have to laugh because the media always seems to make a big deal about any sign that the chairman of the Fed is giving. Right? They look for the tone of voice and decide whether that means that we're going to have a change in our interest rates. Looking for signs. Well, it's no different in Jesus' day. People in Jesus' day were looking for signs all the time. And Jesus drew attention because he was someone who would share the signs. And so we hear in our text today that Jesus says, there will be signs in the sun, in the moon, in the stars, and on earth. He says that there will be confusion, that there will be some people who even faint in fear. I don't know, but I think a lot of that is happening now, don't you think? There are signs. In the sun, and the moon, and the stars, and on earth. Some people are confused, and some people are so fearful that I could see them even fainting. There are signs all around us. Now, the question is, what do we mean by the signs? What does the sign mean? And so, there's a word for this. The word for this, signs, is apocalypse. Apocalypse doesn't necessarily mean the cosmic battle at the end of the world, but it really means an unveiling, a revealing of the hidden mysteries that are known only to God and not to us. And so when we are seeking the apocalypse, we are seeking the revealing, the unveiling of the way things really are. Now in Jesus' day, life is tough. They were living in a time when they were ruled by the Roman Empire. Most of Jesus' listeners were people who made subsistence living, worked as fishermen or laborers, barely making ends meet, barely surviving. So when Jesus says that there are signs, we see these signs, and that is an unveiling of the way things will be, and that when you see these signs, your redemption is near. It's coming. God's kingdom is coming. And so for the people that Jesus was teaching, that was a wonderful thing. They were ready for redemption from their lives that were happening now. They were ready for God's kingdom to come. Now, for most of us, we're living a life that's rather sweet. You know, I said at the earlier service that sometimes when we pray, thy kingdom come in the Lord's Prayer, maybe we kind of want to add, but not right away. When life is pretty good, we don't necessarily want redemption to be near. We don't necessarily want God's kingdom to come, God's kingdom of justice and of righteousness. But when we are hurting, we want it now. So I'm thinking of groups of people in our world who are really hurting right now and who are wanting this redemption, this kingdom to come now. I'm thinking of the migrants in the caravan, waiting for redemption to come now. Thy kingdom come now. I'm thinking of those that are living in tents because their homes and livelihoods were destroyed by fire in California. They want thy kingdom come now. Redemption to come now. And I'm also thinking of people that we've often forgotten about. Every so often I hear another story about Flint, Michigan, and yet for 4 years they haven't had clean water. They're praying, thy kingdom come. Redemption, come now. They want an apocalypse. Now, when we hear these signs of sun and moon and stars and earthquakes and fires and all those things that are happening, probably our basis instinct is to cower, is to hide, is to run away to safety. But did you catch what Jesus said in this text? What to do? When you see the signs around us, when we see the signs of apocalypse, Jesus says, don't cower. Don't run out of fear. He says, stand up. Raise your heads and look, because there are also signs of hope. And he uses the example of the fig tree. If we're always looking at the ground, if we're cowering in fear, if we're afraid to look up, we will miss the blossoming of the trees. And he says, that tree, sprouting its leaves, is a sign of hope. That God is near. There's an interesting story that happened, and I've told this at each of the services, 230 years ago, and I still haven't done the math to know what year that was. But it was in Connecticut, in the House of Representatives. And they were debating in the House of Representatives on a really sunny May day. And they were doing their work by natural light. Well, in the middle of debate, there was a solar eclipse. They had no idea what was happening. They were frightened. They were scared. They thought the world was ending. They thought this was not just an apocalypse. They thought it was the apocalypse. And so a lot of the lawmakers, what they decided they would do, well, we need to adjourn. We need to go home. We need to be with our families. We need to pray. The end is near. It's dark. But the Speaker of the House, this is what he said. He said, this may be the day of the Lord. The end of the world may be coming. But if it is, I want to be doing what God has called me to do. Let's take some candles out and continue our work. And that's what they did. There are signs of hope around us, and one of the signs that we use in Advent is the lighting of candles. If you have an Advent wreath at home or have candles at home, this is the time to light a candle during your prayer time or during your meal time, and to know that the signs of the world might be frightening and confusing, and yet, especially this time, we are alerted to the signs of hope as well. The candle of hope is the candle that we lit today. May it be lit in your homes and in your hearts, especially this Advent season. Amen.